What it do, KTTV? This is KT, and I'm coming at you live with another episode of the Daily K Podcast. And on today's episode, we have Miss Tiffany Thomas, a Houston City Council candidate for District F. Listen as Tiffany talks to us about her previous leadership experience in A-Leaf ISD, how she plans on involving all members of District F in the decision-making process, economic development, and more. Stay tuned. How you doing today, Ms. Thomas?
I am well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Of course.
All right. So I guess we'll jump right into things. So give us a little bit of your background and some of the things that make you a specific qualified candidate for District F.
Sure. So I don't know if we have all the time to talk about my background, but
Okay.
I will say we've been in A-Leaf since 1995. There's a reason why my parents moved here. The schools were good, the neighborhoods were safe, and we had easy access. Beltway 8, 59, I-10. Proud graduate of A-Leaf LSIC, went on to college to Sam Houston State. And when I came back from undergrad, I moved back home and I realized that the neighborhood had changed. And change is not necessarily a negative thing, but the families that I grew up with had left their homes and moved to the suburbs. And my colleagues no longer saw the neighborhood as a viable place to live. Grocery stores had left, jobs were replaced. And so we became a cavity. And so I became involved in organizations like the Urban League in the downtown area. And I always wonder why we spend a lot of our time in other portions of more Black dominated communities. And I always raise the question, well, what about Southwest Houston, right? Like there's no social services network in terms of our civic engagement, economic development, housing programs. We weren't offering that out here. So I always made it an effort of mine to make sure that I told the story about the people that live here and the things that were happening. So to fast forward, A-Leaf ISD had a new superintendent in 2011. His name is H.D. Chambers, the current superintendent, and he created an A-Leaf Leadership Council network, and it was inclusive of business partners, past graduates, volunteers, because A-Leaf had such a stigma and a bad narrative about our neighborhoods and particularly our schools. And every time you would see us on the news, it was crime. So I was invited to join, and we really learned what was happening in the district and served as a mouthpiece to the community so we can disrupt the incorrect narrative and to really just promote some of the strengths that later evolved to me running for an open seat. Gary Cook had decided not to run and become a real good grandfather, and they wanted to do their thing. The seat became open. I ran, I won. We did good work over the last 4 years, and so now I'm asking voters to support me again this November.
Well, thank you first for that service in the district.
Thank you.
Now, as we move to the district and we're stepping out, and we're going a little broad, but
yes.
How will you improve the life of the citizens in District F?
So that's a very broad question.
Yeah.
So District F is inclusive of very distinct neighborhoods. So that's A-Leaf, that's Piney Point, that's West Chase, south of Westheimer, that's Tanglewild, Westmont, and Briar Meadow.
Yes.
And they have very distinct needs and priorities. But the one that they all share is that they feel that they've been forgotten. And also when I came home and I remember asking a question like, what's going on in the neighborhood? And they were like, well, District F is the forgotten district. You don't know that? And we see that in the cavities of our neighborhoods. We see that with the job prospects. We see that with our infrastructure. So one of the things that I think is immediate and important is that people want to just first feel heard. So as we've been campaigning, I've been asking the question, it's not just about your vote, but what do we do when we get there? And so in terms of improving their lives, I think that shows up in a variety of ways. One, the quality of life. There's some city assets and some things we can do. Can we cut the grass? Can we clean up the area? Regardless of your ethnic background, how much money you make, or how you got to us, you deserve to live in clean and safe environments. And I think that's baseline.
Okay.
I think the second thing, public safety, which is a really big deal, and public safety is this huge bucket, but what's missing in District F is the programming to support the public safety. I don't believe in support over policing neighborhoods just because they are in poverty, but I do believe that we have missed out on programming from the city that our tax dollars pay into that does not return to us. So I think, and then also what we're hearing is around economic development. There's a lot of people that I went to school with and people that are new to the area that have an affinity for the district, but they don't feel like they have a place in participating in business. And there are programs at the city that, again, to extend out here, so people who want to come, they have an opportunity to do so and be successful doing it.
Thank you. So with those, and you gave me a few specific points. So now, what is one of the most important challenges out of those? So like, is it the being heard, or is it something different facing District F? And how do you propose to it?
Yeah, so there's a myriad of issues, because what we're talking about is disrupting a system for the last 15 years that has not served us. So we're at a deficit, and so I don't believe that my candidacy or our 4 years will be the aspirational, we're going to do it all. Yes. I think what our next 4 years will do is respond to the deficit our neighborhoods has been operating in, one, with communication, and then restoring credibility to the seat. But I think most importantly, as we have knocked over 5,000 doors in the heat, we've done the work, attended every HOA meeting we can, every civic club since announcing our candidacy. Community engagement is very challenging here. And I think we have to change the model on engagement and what we expect parents and families to do at City Hall. The reality is people are raising their children. They're taking care of loved ones. They're working multiple jobs. And to say, oh, here's a meeting at 6 p.m., come, and there's no food or childcare is not reasonable. Yes. That's not okay. So I think we have to, as a community, participate with each other. It's not that we elect someone and they go figure it out, but it's a dual process. And so for me, I think if we can create some type of model where all of us feel engaged and heard, then we can address in a very equitable, inclusive manner all of those issues. Yes. But the problem is that we have people who have a deeper need in the system, a longer need in the system, not participating because they're busy. Yeah. There's barriers to participating. And we have those who not have time, who are retired or whatnot. They have the time to do it, but their need in the system is different. So to me, I think that's the bedrock. If we can create a new tool and a new way to talk to people, we can talk about public safety, and we can do that around jobs, and we can do that with everyone involved.
And have you put any thought into the plan of how to get everybody involved? Or?
Yeah, so professionally, I teach at graduate school at Prairie View A&M in the graduate program of community development. PV!
Yeah, okay.
Today's homecoming, so
we pushing it right.
We're pushing it. We're being very diligent and dedicated not to be out here doing this. And so I teach community development, and in my introduction class, we sharpen our teeth around different methodologies to engage. So for me, I want to be able to activate the method in the community in real time. One of the things I've been asking residents to support me on is that within the first 100 days, to have a real community retreat, like a real community engagement. Where A-Leaf will have its own Piney Point Tangle-Out, where we can get in the room with food and childcare, and then we get in the room and we talk about what are our public safety issues. Like, let's language that. What's our real job needs? What are we requesting? So that becomes our agenda. And listen, that model may not work, but we have to try several things in order for us to tweak what works for us. We have a growing young family population coming. We have to respond to that. There's language barrier, economic barrier. And so those are all of the things that I have considered, but I'm also willing for input for those in the district that have skill set, talent, advice, feedback. I want them involved in helping us create that.
Okay. And so as we switch a little bit and we think about what's been going on in Dallas, what's been happening in the past, community police relations very important. So how would you go about improving those relationships?
Sure. And thank you for bringing up what recently happened in Fort Worth. And it could some girlfriends and I were texting, it literally could be any one of us. Because the level of anti-blackness and the level of fear is a real thing that a lot of families experience. Immigration, those who don't speak English language, they're just in a state of fear. So Chief Acevedo, the current police chief, has moved from this old model of having storefronts all throughout the community to more of a relational policing, and really creating relationship. And in poor neighborhoods, people have resistance to police. There are credible reasons why. And then there are also reasons why police feel some type of way of going into these neighborhoods that are also crime ridden because they're afraid as well. So I think, one, we need to explore and see how this relational policing works. And like I mentioned earlier, the programming that comes with that. Again, we have to change the model of engagement. A couple of weeks ago, I attended Coffee with a Cop. The International Management District hosted that, and it was at 9 a.m. on a Thursday at a coffee shop. However, at 9 a.m. on a Thursday, people are at work, people are at school. Right? And so again, that's not okay where you have majority cops in the room and the people you need to talk to, they're not the elders, they're not the young people, they're in class, right? So I think we have to disrupt this system of just saying, oh, we have a town hall, we had it, but it's not effective. And I think the HPD, in the conversation I've had with them, they are working as the West Side division and the Midwest. Midwest has such a strong community presence, back to school drive, they're in apartments, working around code enforcement, making things safe. But I think one of the challenges is when crime is committed and it's solved, we never hear that it's solved. Yes. We just hear that such and such got shot on Boone Road, and then that's it. And all we know is, wow, they're shooting on Boone. But we don't have a mechanism to completely communicate, and a place and a space for residents to really have a relationship with police. I think the incident in Fort Worth gives all of us pause that if we see something and say something and we call, because we're concerned about our neighbor, what happens? And so I think that's a reality that we all have to do. I absolutely know my neighbors. We all have each other's phones. And I think there's some things that we can do to support those efforts to make sure that everyone feels safe, even for a courtesy call. And so, I don't have all the answers. I know what I witnessed. I know what I experienced. I know what I'm hearing and what are realities. And so I believe the relational model is going to be key in Houston.
It's going to have to be, because I listened to the guy, our neighbor, and he said, if I knew this would have happened, I would have
never.
But he called to check on her safety.
Correct.
In the first place.
Because the door was open. Correct.
Yes. So
correct. And in these day and age, we have so much technology which we can stay connected, but it's creating barriers for us to be connected. Yes. And so, I grew up, and I assume you have, in the area where you knew your neighbors and y'all talk and y'all spoke, and we have gotten away from that. And I think that we have to get to a place of really activating those neighbor night outs and those community neighborhood street events, so we can get to know each other, so we don't have to call the cops. We can just knock on your own door and say, are you okay? Are you home? I saw something. My HOA neighbor, she will put a note on my door. My president, if she sees something like, oh, someone was knocking at your door, I just thought you should know.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? And so and I appreciate that.
Yes.
And I think there's some things that we can work on in building safe and trust with each other.
Yes. Okay. So then switching gears to affordable housing.
Yes.
So what is the first thing you would do to expand affordable housing in District F?
So affordable, capital A, lowercase a. Those are two different models.
Okay.
And so, District F has the most affordable rent in terms of market rate in the city. Also, single family homes as well. So we're the most affordable corridor in the city to live in. I think Kinder put us in a study that we are next to be gentrified. So one, our rents are currently maintaining. I think from a county and a city perspective, they have to come to some type of alignment around housing voucher programs for those who, as Houston continues to grow, the market continues to grow. How do we make our area viable where working families with workforce housing, which I think is important for housing for seniors, which I've been hearing a lot as an ask. We don't have enough of that. But then also for making sure that the market is still affordable for people, and where young families will purchase that home. Because that's a part of it too, right? And so that's the economics. So we think from a lot of times we think housing and we just think it's a Section 8 voucher, but it's not. Families want neighborhoods that aren't flooded. They want neighborhoods that are safe. They want neighborhoods where it's worth it. And to be in the city of Houston proper and still be able to have the most affordable, I think it's important. And so one of the things I think we can do from a city perspective is look at land banks or land trusts to preserve some lots. And how we use that, and then working with the city to make sure that we're included in that. But also with that, District F still has land to be developed, right? And so we have to come to a decision as a community. Do we want to be concrete jungle, or do we want to preserve some of this space, because we're also the least impacted by flooding?
Yes, we are. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I have a Corvette, so doing hard
You was nervous.
Man.
I know it. You was nervous. I would be too.
Yeah, but it was okay. Like I say, it came up to the street, whereas some friends lost a lot.
Absolutely. And let me add this. So, A-Leaf is in phase 2 of Complete Communities, which is Mayor Turner's redevelopment initiative. And actually, I think Houston would be the first city to kind of demonstrate what an asset development model looks like in a large municipality. A-Leaf was recently named in that. There's some pros and cons that we've been hearing. Community people are concerned about, one, their rent or their mortgage going up because of the gentrification. But I think what this initiative allows the community to do is participate in what they want. They get to create it. And so the city is not going to come in and tell you, right? We get to direct the city and what our priorities are, and housing is one of them. And so this also should be a plug for people to come and participate as and be involved in those conversations.
Yes. All right. So then moving to the community and the economy.
Yes.
So what will you do to support a vibrant economy?
Well, so I would be one of 16 council members elected on November 5th.
Yes.
And so a part of that is taking advantage of some of the incentives we do with business. And I remember asking a couple of officials downtown, when you talk about Houston, what Houston do you talk about? You don't talk about this side of Houston. And so when we're talking about Houston having a vibrant community and a vibrant economy, those businesses don't come here. There are certain zip codes within District F, 77099 to be specific, that has at times higher unemployment rates than the national average. So that's telling. One, the access to those jobs clearly is not happening. And then two, are they trained? And so I believe that while we're incentivizing large corporations in the innovation district and all of that to come in, that's great. But we have to make sure that our adult workforce has an opportunity to participate in that economy. And are they the high skill, high wages, the CTE center that A-Leaf ISD is, like, no one has that this side of town. Like, this is what we're doing. But when those kids come out trained for those high skill, high wage jobs, they can't find one in District F. There's nothing here. So then that is talent and skill that leaves our community to go elsewhere and turn over a dollar somewhere else. So I think we have to, one, make sure that our people here have access to the job training that will make them competitive versus companies bringing in people from California, Colorado to take our jobs.
Okay. So as you talked about the CTE, that was a great segue. So what is the city council responsibility in K-12 education?
So technically there is none. Okay. So this is Texas, and an independent school district has its own governing system. It's its own municipality, and I had the pleasure of serving as a trustee for 4 years for A-Leaf ISD. Is there alignment? Yes. Okay. Partnerships can happen. But I believe from a city's perspective, as we're the largest city in the state of Texas, the largest in the region, arguably close to the third largest in the United States, there's a position we must take with education in K-12, but not just in the city, but in the region. Okay. So I believe from the city's perspective, it's not that we need to oversee schools. But we do need to look at the data that's already produced around job readiness and workforce and where the jobs are coming from, and really start convening business in our education leaders and come up with a plan on what we need to do. Oftentimes we operate in our silos. And when we don't have viable, trusted leadership in a variety of spaces, and that's one of the things I noticed while serving as a trustee, there were things that the school was attempting to respond to that we could not because it's out of our purview, right? There's only so much schools can do, and we didn't have the competent leadership to join us in responding to that. I think one of the things that a city council member can do to support schools in their direction is making sure that the businesses and the residents in the apartments that these babies live in, that they're safe and clean. When you drive through, many of the gates don't work. The apartments are laden with human trafficking, prostitution, drugs, crime, all types of things, and then we expect them to perform. There is space from a city council perspective to make sure that those business owners, those property owners are within code, to make sure that those residences support the people who live there, so that they can go be productive citizens outside of those residences.
Yes, man, that sounds like a great collaboration. Makes perfect sense on you all's role as far as city council and education, because like you said, it's only so much you can do.
Only so much. And one of the things the schools did, ALEAF, was convene most of the property apartment owners in F to really look at why some of our schools were challenged with some of our children leaving and moving to school, and created this comment program in support of, and so comment's been instrumental, and I think that's a model that can be duplicated with additional financial support from district funds, where on site parents are engaged. On site, additional tutoring and after school support and readiness is happening. And then it keeps people in place, but the community becomes safer and more connected. And city council can work in that. And, and I believe, the mayor has his initiatives around that. One fortunate thing about ALEAF ISD is that, fiscally we're sound. We're not closing schools. We're not in a position. We have a B rating. But the perception is that it's not a successful district, which means the perception is extended to where people are living.
Okay, true. All right, so now, as a representative of District F, knowing that we are trying to get connected, and we are diverse.
Yes.
Excuse me. What would your role be to discourage discrimination of marginalized communities such as immigrants, Muslims, LGBTQ, and people of color?
Sure.
So how do you discourage discrimination of those?
I am proud to have the endorsement of the Houston LGBT Political Caucus, and that was one of the first endorsements that came out the gate and supported my campaign. One of the unique things about living and growing in this area, the area of ALEAF, particularly of District F, is that you're surrounded by diversity. I only often hear, the discrimination when we leave kind of this corridor, because this is the community that, it's the international district. I believe that a human and equal rights ordinance is necessary in order to have something documented on the books, to include language where everyone feels that they're protected, but not just protected on the books, but then what do we do with that, right? So we have a whole bunch of ordinances on the books and nothing gets done with that. So for me, in my candidacy, and then also as a sitting selected November 5th, that I will continue to stand up everything that's integral around that, in turn making sure that immigrant communities, how anyone identifies, racial profiling, all of that's documented, and that we actually respond to that.
Okay. All right, thank you. Well, so now, last question. What is your favorite restaurant? And you gave me a preview.
That's a hard question. That's a hard question. Okay, so for breakfast, you can find me at Le Peep on Westheimer and Woodcrest all the time. And I get the roost, sunny side up, right and then right there on the corner, wheat toast bacon. Okay. Now, I love Cajun Kitchen on Willcrest, that turkey necks. All mom and pops. J. Alexander's used to be my favorite dinner spot until they closed down. Yes. But I'm a local. I stay right here in this area, and I eat up everything. But those are my two favorite in the district.
Okay. Just catch that.
I believe
I
today.
mean, it's hard. I mean,
Today.
They got some good food.
It might change.
Yes. Mom and pops. All right. So lastly, can you give the people how to get in contact with you? What's the information? How do they support the campaign?
Sure. So on my website, of course, TiffanyDThomas.com. On Twitter, it's at Tiffany4 FOR A-Leaf. And all my contact information there. You can email us at Tiffany4FORAleaf@gmail.com. I actually respond to that email. How people can support: one, vote if you're eligible to vote between October 21 and November 1 for early vote.
Okay.
I would appreciate that.
Yes.
If you have not had an opportunity, if I have not had an opportunity to earn your vote, I would like to earn their vote by November 5th. But you can not only vote, but bring two people with you.
Yes.
So we have the opportunity, not just for historic politics, to elect the first woman under 40 and African American to the seat, but we have the opportunity to participate in our own change. And I think that's what's most important, is that I live here, I own my house here, I'm a taxpayer here.
Yes.
And I think it's time that we stop allowing people to manipulate our spaces and our votes and actually get something done.
All right. We'd like to thank Tiffany for stopping by and talking to the KTTV audience today. If you'd like to hear more about our plans for economic development or how she plans to improve police community relations in District F, go to kttv.com for the full interview. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment to let me know your favorite parts of this interview. This is KT for KTTV signing out. 100.